So when we think about sort of blockchain, I think since the early days of, you know, 2017, the ICO days, digital identity is probably one of the key things that people think of blockchain being able to help solve. I think payments is one of them. That's kind of being solved by stable coins now. But immutable identity, I think, is something that people have always been talking about. Nobody's really been able to solve it. And I think nowadays it's actually becoming more and more important because as we see when you go to any website online right now, I think one of the very first things you have to do pretty much every day is verify that you're a human. Whether it's by clicking on a bunch of traffic lights or solving math equations, et cetera, et cetera. So, in the traditional internet world, we call this the bot problem, right? And bots are bad, largely because they cost a lot of money, right? It's internet services at dollars that are going to waste because they're not being viewed by real human beings. And what we're seeing now, especially in AI, it's going to be even worse. You look at deepfake photos, you see deepfake videos. How do we actually differentiate what is a human being and what is not? That we actually think is becoming a pressing problem. So, Humanity Protocol, just a short intro, is a relatively new project company. We've been around for 2 years. We recently launched our mainnet, launched our token. It's a layer 2 specifically built for identity. And what I mean by that is essentially, unlike any other blockchain, we've natively built in verifiable credentials so that addresses can have IDs and credentials tied to it. And the goal for us is not to just be our single ecosystem, but connect into other blockchains, other apps, or even the traditional world so that things can be verified. And the reason why we call ourselves Humanity Protocol is because we actually think the very first attribute that we want to be verifying is whether you're a human being or not. But for us, unlike other projects like WorldCoin or whatnot, where it's purely about proof of personhood, for us, it's actually about verifying many different pieces of data, different types of human attributes, so that we can build a complete picture of a human being. Right, so as I mentioned, we're around 2 years old. We just launched mainnet. We now have around 1.5 million verified human beings on Humanity Protocol. And the way we're doing this is actually through many different types of credentials, starting with a biometrics credential, where people can actually scan their palm print and palm veins to verify that they are a real human being. We have a booth somewhere out there where people can actually experience that in order to onboard as a verified human being. But more importantly, for us, it's also about verifying other types of attributes, right? Maybe it's a reusable KYC credential, or maybe it's proof of age, proof of employment, proof of education, or maybe even proof of assets in your traditional bank account. So for us, it's about building a decentralized identity graph so that ultimately things can be verified, things can be true, and all this data people will have complete control over in terms of who and where they share this with. And we actually think this is very important, and this is actually a very big business. If you think about, say, a company like Facebook or Meta, where it's trading at around $2 or $3 trillion, the only thing that it really owns is all the data about us, all the data about the users on there. But what's happening is they are monetizing it. And to an extent, when we look at the world of AI very soon, a lot of that data might even be false. It's pretty trivial for anybody now to create an email account, sign up for LinkedIn, sign up for Facebook, and just catfish, right? So what we're trying to do is build out technology so that people can control their own data, have that data verified, and share it with whoever they choose to share it whenever they want. Yeah, so we have a quick video where these devices, as I mentioned, are actually already live. I think we have a booth on this floor where people have been lining up to try out and scan and onboard. And the really interesting thing for us is that with this type of biometrics, where we're using the palm for palm prints and palm veins, it's actually fully tested. Tencent's using that for payments in China, Amazon's using that for payments in the US. And what we're actually doing is we're also creating additional use cases so that, unlike some other projects where they're just paying people money to verify themselves, we're creating utility from day one, right? So these devices actually, you'll soon see them popping up in many different conferences where we're partnering with, for example, for access control. There's a company recently that we acquired. There's a company recently we acquired called Moongate, which actually powers probably 60, 70, 80% of the events for ticketing, including partly TOKEN2049. So soon, in a lot of the events coming out in 2026, crypto events, you'll actually see these devices popping up at entrance so that people who have onboarded can directly access without having to go find their email, find a QR code, show their ID, et cetera, in order to gain access. Beyond that, I think for us, Humanity Protocol is all about different types of human attributes, different types of verifiable credentials. So the palm is only one part of it. The other stuff that we're working is actually just as interesting, including, for example, we're using ZKTLS, where people can actually verify different things about themselves online. Maybe it's how many hours of gameplay they've done on Steam, or maybe it's their Marriott Bonvoy or Hyatt loyalty status. If you guys actually go to our app, which is app.humanity.org, and sign up for an account, there are already a number of different credentials that you can prove out. And we're starting to actually work with different types of partners to allow users to monetize these credentials. Maybe it's getting rewarded for verifying and proving that you're a loyal traveler. Or maybe it's getting bonus points and gameplay dollars by verifying and proving that you're an avid gamer. So for us, it's going a lot more beyond just proving that I'm a human being, but it's also about proving and verifying many different types of attributes. For example, as I mentioned, right, it might be Emirates and proving my tier, go to GitHub, prove my developer contributions, and ultimately we're going to be launching APIs and SDKs so that different sort of companies, whether it's dApps, whether it's other blockchains, or even traditional internet companies, will actually have the ability to verify this. As I mentioned, we recently launched our mainnet. We launched our token. The ticker is just H. It's a utility token where the idea for us is that we're creating a flywheel for there to be value accrual with the token, in the sense that when it comes to the gas fees for the blockchain, or whether it's verification fees, companies, applications, dApps, other blockchains making use of credentials, they'll have to pay fees in the token, as well as rewarding identity validators who are issuing these credentials on Humanity. They could be financial institutions, they could be universities, they could be your companies saying that you have a proof of employment credential. They're all going to get rewarded for issuing credentials and attesting to certain facts about people, and they're going to get rewarded in the H token. I think when it comes to sort of use cases for proof of humanity or Humanity Protocol, we think there's a lot of stuff, right? Whether it's fair drops, where I think one of the biggest issues people are encountering, or other founders are encountering, is Sybil, Sybil is everybody generating a lot of different wallet addresses and farming them. Or looking at, we're talking to a lot of projects in the GameFi space, where they want to get, where they want to, reward people with points, tokens for customer acquisition. But again, it's really hard to ensure that it's actually a unique person that's playing the game, rather than dealing with a bunch of bots. Right? Looking at DAOs, where we're now working with a bunch of different ecosystems to enable proof of humanity on DAOs, because historically, as much as we want to democratize blockchain, all the DAOs are actually based on proof of stake. The more tokens you've staked, the more votes you have. Right? So even for the Humanity DAO that we're going to be launching soon, it's going to be a bicameral structure where certain things are going to be voted on based on how many tokens you have staked. But then there are also other things where it's actually going to be based on one person, one vote. right? And then when we sort of look at the Web 2 space and the traditional world, I mentioned earlier in terms of biometrics for access, looking at, we're now talking to a bunch of different online ticketing platforms. As you guys know, Taylor Swift concerts and different sort of things. There are frauds, fake tickets, and then scalping, all of these things going on. So we actually think having credential-based ticketing and proof of humanity is going to be super important. Looking at online and offline experiences based on credentials. As I mentioned before, being able to prove that you are a loyal traveler, or being able to prove that you're an avid gamer can bring about sort of a next age of advertising and marketing. And then I think finally, just to talk a little bit about Mooncake. Obviously, you guys are already at TOKEN2049. I think for those of you who like to go to crypto conferences over the coming months, and especially in 2026, you're going to start seeing a lot of events where access can be done directly just by palm scans. So if you guys have an opportunity, do go check out our booth where you can actually try it out, enroll yourself, and then for future events and conferences, it'll be super easy for you guys to have access. So I think for us, we're really excited, not just because we have a hardware product that recently launched. And we're going to be starting to distribute 2,500 devices all over the world into conferences, into events, into dedicated stores to enroll people. But beyond that, we're also working a lot on different types of partnerships so that these credentials can be used, right? As I mentioned, whether it's a reusable KYC credential, or maybe it's a proof of assets, proof of credit score, proof of employment, proof of education, all of these things being turned into credentials on Humanity Protocol, and then leveraging zero-knowledge proofs. Different companies, different applications will have the ability to finally verify that things are true about people without having them go through a very cumbersome KYC process, or going through a cumbersome, let me take a screenshot of my bank statement to prove my assets and prove my address sort of process. So I think we're one of the few projects, I think, in the crypto space that are really trying to solve an imminent problem, not just for users, but also for enterprises. And as I mentioned, I think in the age of AI, data, especially data about humans, is going to be super important. And I actually see tremendous opportunity for what we're doing. That's it for me today. Thanks a lot, guys.